your definitions where you've got the different types of businesses down there, we've got banquet halls listed. And I'm looking at it from the standpoint of an unintended consequence happening. Would a conference...
This space is primarily used for dancing or live music events. Typically a conference banquet hall is not going to be used for a dancing event of some sort. So that's where I think there's that kind of big carve out that won't qualify for that. This is really a persistent, you have a space that's being utilized for that social entertainment definition that is a drinking place or nightclub.
Well, that's I think my biggest concern is
Okay.
just that there's not an unintended consequence to somebody that was not intended to fall under this overlay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
To make that definition as clear as possible.
Yeah, but one of the things that you've got to fall back on, and that's my experience here with the city of Myrtle Beach. If you have a hotel or motel, that they all have those like conference room, banquet rooms to be used properly.
Right.
Okay, I can recall during some of our bike fest during the day, whether it be the Harley or the Memorial Day weekend, to where there was one episode where they had it told the people that, yeah, we want this, we're going to have a gathering in here. Well, next thing you know, they got a comedy club set up and they're charging admission at the door. So that's where it kind of goes to that language that we had added, or if you rise to one of these things that we've outlawed. So, I mean, it's like you don't want to not include it for the chance of something like that happening again, but you don't want to include it because then everybody's going to say questions like, well, I'm having a conference come in here and on this night, somebody's sponsoring a cocktail hour and I'm having over 150 people in there. That's kind of like an accessory to the hotel. And that's how we could categorize something like that. But, you know, we have to factor in every possible scenario that could come up whenever we write something like this to make sure that if that does happen, that we've got something covered.
Right, but that's sort of where I was leading to, is to make sure that either it's defined as well as we can define it, or you have the flexibility to operate.
As an accessory use in affiliation with a hotel or something along those lines. But is that kind of the point you were?
Yeah.
How would it operate then, like with the restaurant that pushes the tables to the side of the room and turns into a club for?
That's where that last line that I read, where the review committee has the authority upon hearing or notice that a restaurant is operating in that manner to review and determine that that restaurant needs a special assembly occupancy license because they're operating in a manner that is closer to a nightclub or discotheque than an actual restaurant.
So under that, any business, let's just use the 100 number because you got it in there. If you were less than 100, then you would not have to
come pull this license.
You would not have to buy that license. If you're over that, you do have to buy the license, and it's renewed every year.
Correct.
Is once a year too often? Because I mean, I'm thinking about it from the guy, wrote this letter about the economics that are put into it. But if you open up your business and you intend to have a larger size and you put the money into it to build it and you operate it properly and all, at the end of 1 year, it's pretty easy to say no, you can't renew your license for a variety of reasons. So I'm just wondering, they have not had the opportunity to reclaim what they put into it as far as a business. So I'm just throwing it out. Is a year too much or too soon, or could it be 2 years or not?
I don't think so. I mean, you're supposed to get the annual fire inspections every year. And I think one of the things too that we noted to address that, we replaced the word shall with the word may. Okay? And the reason we did that is because there may be some things that may just be a slip up that doesn't comply 100% but didn't lead to anything major. Whereas there may be somebody that just thumbs their nose completely to us and goes in there and does whatever they want to do. And so then we can go in there and deal with you accordingly.
Comes down to, it's the few who mess it up for the majority.
One bad apple spoils
One
the
bad
bunch.
apple messes it up for everybody else and causes everybody else to have to.
And I'd like to point out, I tried to write this ordinance with as much flexibility from the city and an enforcement perspective as possible. That's why we went with the mays instead of the shalls. You know, we have the other ordinance that I dropped on the table in front of you, which is just a strict 150 hard cap. There's no wiggle room, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, it's just this. I was trying to hand something to y'all that's a bit more of a novel approach that allows a bit more flexibility for the city to entertain good operators doing what we want them to do in the commercial space that we provide for them, but also still keeping an enforcement mechanism in place that if something were to occur, we would have some teeth to go after those bad actors in the space. So that's really the lens that we're trying to look at this through. Appreciate the comments that you're making here, making sure everything's tailored and crafted to that, but it really is about how do we keep the amount of flexibility that we need for this space, because this is our commercial district, this is where we make our bread and butter. So you know, a hard cap becomes a struggle at a certain point, because then you're just shutting off a whole swath of business.
But you just want to make it comfortable for somebody who's making an investment into
Yeah.
something, doesn't feel like they can't recover their investment because in 1 year I may not get it back. Well, if they read it closely and you explain to them closely that it's, like you say, may instead of shall, you know, maybe that provides more of a comfort level to them to make an investment into a new business in the area. You want to encourage the business, you don't want to discourage it, but you also got to protect it too.
You know, there's 100 apples, 99 of them are good and 1 of them is bad.
Right.
Majority of the time, we have to write rules and regulations
For the one
in
guy.
relation to the one that's bad, because the other 99 will play by the rules the right way.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like a business coming in here, if we let you know what you're going up against before you open your business, if you stay within the rules and the regulations, then yes, you can be successful. Sometimes it may just be a bad business idea and a bad business venture, and whether we were involved or not, it might be dead within a year. I mean, that's just the facts of it on the boulevard.
I have a question about the limit of 150. That seems low to me.
Did we look at any examples of businesses that are down there, or did we come up with any to give us more of a concrete idea of what size that actually constitutes? Or what,
Everything on the boulevard at this point is under 150.
Pretty much.
everything down there is pretty much?
Well, all the examples, pretty much all the examples you gave us also looked at 150 as well. So.
Now, are you talking, which ordinance? You talking about the one that's strictly 150 straight, or were you talking about the one that allows for over 150?
She was just talking in general.
In general, 150?
I think you could,
I thought it was capped at 150.
So the ordinance on the table, that's just the 2-sheeter, is a hard cap at 150.
Yeah.
The one that we're talking through here with this presentation is any place that has a 100-person occupancy who seeks to go above that 100-person occupancy would be required the special occupancy license, which would allow them the greater
That's
flexibility.
fine,
to go.
that makes sense.
What I'm hearing is basically, is perhaps we look at, if we like them both in their own way, that can be an alternative. Say we recommend you look at it. Here's one that said exactly what y'all said in your ordinance, which is 150, and this is it, and it's on Boulevard adjacent. Or here's the one that's going to allow it and try to ensure what the intent is applied, but allows them for it to be larger gatherings than that. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
yeah, I think the licensing fee is the better route to go to, because it takes away the objection that, okay, I can't have a business that's gonna have more than 150 in it. It allows you to, as long as you play by the rules.
as long as you dot I's and cross T's.
So it takes away that objection by somebody who says you're being overburdensome on the businesses. So I think
I
the
think one
licensing.
of the other big things that Cameron made in his presentation is that this is a whole lot more than just a zoning issue.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you're getting into, I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I'm not gonna show up at 12 o'clock at night in a pair of khakis and a knit shirt and tell them to clear the building. I ain't gonna get too far with that. But I mean, that's the part that we've got to dig a little bit deeper into is, you know, does it need to be in general code? Does it need to be in the zoning code? Does a part of it need to be in the zoning code solely for review process? And then once you get open, it falls back under a general code. That's the one thing I don't have the answer to you yet. That's one thing that we're gonna have to go across the street and get with legal and things along those lines as well. but I mean, I see y'all nodding your heads in agreement with what I'm saying. You know, that needs to be a part of the statement that comes from this board in regard to that as well. This is a bit more than just a zoning matter.
So if this were to move forward, then this would fall under zoning officers enforcing this, or this?
If this could fall under zoning officers, I'm gonna probably ask y'all to vote no.
Yes.
Something like that, because that wouldn't be that wouldn't be safe for any of my guys to
Yeah,
have.
there's a
the
number of
girls
other
have to
items
deal
in
with.
there that require police and fire.
And so-
And that's where you say the general code also needs to be a part of it because of those other items that it entails.
In drafting this and the purview that I have with the planning department was a struggle, and I'll just read this to you. The police department, Department of Business License, and Office of the Fire Marshal shall have the power to order a place vacated or closed in the event a special assembly occupancy is not in compliance with the terms of this section. So in our zoning code, we're authorizing police, fire, and the Department of Business License, which are regulated by the general code, to conduct flushings of businesses as they see fit. That's an exact point where I think this doesn't jive in just the zoning code. That enforcement piece must come from the general code, but as far as a zoning code, like, this would essentially force everything up under our zoning officers. To Ken's point, I don't think that's the appropriate way to handle this.
But it would be used during review.
Yes.
So whenever somebody submits their paperwork in, they want to redo a restaurant, if we're sitting there checking over it, and just hypothetically say that we go to 150, okay, and they come in there showing an occupancy of 175, then we're gonna deny it from a zoning standpoint, okay? This can serve as a zoning tool through the review process. Once a business license gets issued or a permit gets issued to start the construction, a business license gets issued to open, that's whenever the other fingers of the city have got to come into play.
Sure.
What I understand, if I'm reading it right, is if somebody wants to build an establishment, that would come under this license, because they're going to exceed 100 in this case right now. The occupancy will be based upon the size of the building, just like it is now. So if it's an occupancy that allows more than 100 people, and it's going to be a nightclub, they have to then fall under this purview there, so that it's built based upon the size of the building, based upon the type of building they're building, which is under the building code. And that's how we determine the occupancy. Is that correct?
Occupancy is determined by the plans you submit and the layout and the architectural layout and design of your building.
Exactly.
Occupancy is a number that can be worked.
Right.
If you got an occupancy of 170, you got to have less than 150, you add 4 more tables. The occupancy is now down to 150, okay? Now that means we got to go by and check every month to make sure you still got the 45 tables as opposed to the 40 tables. So yeah, that'd be another kind of a hurdle thing to deal with.
So I know y'all got a lot more understanding of this. This special committee to review, it says, what would be the standards? I mean, I understand the standard is not lawlessness and it's not going to create someone to ralliness of the outside into the public and create issues with the streets and the adjoining relationships. But how would that stand? How would y'all be able to justify denying someone? What is in here that says this is what it will be judged upon and could stand up if somebody sued you about it, because you just do it arbitrarily as a committee?
The suitability of the location, taking into consideration factors such as crime, traffic, litter, noise, parking, hours of operation. Making such suitability determination, the committee shall consider community concerns, particularly those of neighbors in the immediate vicinity. Other things such as safety inspections of the building. So what else here? Proposed location is compliant with all relevant local state laws, including zoning. If you've been denied or revoked a proposed location license within the past 3 months, that's grounds for non-issuance or non-renewal. So there is a list of criteria in here. What I'd say, the grouping of staff that has been put onto that special review committee, and specifically the chief of police and the fire marshal, are strong advocates of the safety component of this, and that is a large part of the determination of whether it is practical or applicable for that location. For the chief of police to say, yes, that's a fine place to do this.
Was that, I couldn't remember, is that similar to one that was in Philadelphia that's got that type of
Yes.
stuff? And so far, they've been able to, from a legal standpoint, hold up on that.
It's still on their books, so.
And again, that's where the general code side of it comes back into play.
Those are some pretty tight standards that you just listed.
There.
We're good? Semi-good?
When will legal look at this?
So based off what I'm hearing today, I will have this over to legal for their review and potential applicability in the general code this afternoon. I'll have that over to them. My plan had always been to have the staff report written up for the next meeting for y'all to vote on the direction of this bill, or this ordinance at this point.
But we wanted to make sure that what we were gonna run across there first was something that y'all were either yea or nay with in regard to for that purpose. We didn't want to put the cart before the horse.
Any reason to drop it down to the 100 in the licensing one from the 150? Or
For me, at this point, everything on Ocean Boulevard is basically under 150, so if you cap it at 150, there's functionally no need for that license outside of a few businesses that may want to go above it. I thought this was just a better capture. After meeting with the chief of police, it was some concerns about flushing out the boulevard and that sort of stuff. I thought this would just help capture a bit more of that activity that we're trying to
is the
condition.
intent to try and reduce the size of those down there, or to not, or to just ensure we don't go above where we're at?
I'm gonna go back to what Cameron said earlier. That's basically an arbitrary number. Okay, if y'all feel better at 150, because that was kind of what the original thing came here to you with, was the 150 cap. If y'all feel better at the 150, we can bust it up to 150 before we send it
I
across the
think we
street.
said this room here is, what, how many?
71? 71.
71, so it's like twice the size of this room here, roughly, which seems like a fairly manageable size.
So, I mean, I'm about to say that if that's something, if y'all want it to say to 150, we can make it say to 150.
I would like 150.
150?
Well,
Look, Kent,
one of the things,
so what you're saying is if we go to 150, it basically doesn't bring this into play for any of the businesses on the boulevard.
At this point, no. If they would seek to go above the 150, then yes.
Well, it wouldn't cover
Well,
any of them
it wouldn't cover
anyway,
them
because they're
anyways,
already
because they're
there, they're grandfathered in, so it would
Until
be a
the
new
ordinance
business
takes
that were larger, correct?
Right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it doesn't really affect anybody who's down there already.
I think the 150 was, the key was, is if we were saying it's only going to be 150, then 150 would be the right number. But we're not going to limit them even at 100 or 70 or 125. It's just they need to go through the process to make sure they're getting the license and that they're not creating the nuisance that is driven there. So it's not going to limit them. I think, and maybe it's for a public image standpoint when we say 150 because what we've been put out there, but the 100's not limiting anybody with the one where you have the ability to go above it. So I think the 100 was there because how large do we make it where it can create that without them having to have the review each year? I think it's good to have a review, whether it's yearly or whenever it is. Or they can just flat come up and say, you're closed because now you've created these issues. That could be another thing that come up.
But again, I would, based off the discussion that was had, I would pose before the board right now a straw poll. Y'all want to go with the 100 or y'all want to go with the 150 in the other example? We got the 1-page ordinance and then we got the 5-page ordinance. If y'all want to go with 150 on both, or you want to go 150 and 100, I say straw poll it.
My thought is if we could, is to submit, our recommendation would be to submit both to council. Gives the flexibility where people can build what they need to as long as they're doing the right things, keep it safe and secure the boulevard. The other one is, which is what they asked us to look at, was to cap it at 150, and I don't think that's a decision we can make because we don't have the information terminals at your desk, but I think we're giving them the opportunity to see there's a way for business to do more than 100, 150, and not stymie the industry, but also keep it safe, friendly, and secure. So I would think we send both recommendations, and one stays at 150, which is a solid one, and we allow the other one to stay, which that allows you to go, if it's 350, you can do it as long as you're within the standards of not creating a public nuisance. So that's my thoughts.
Are we able to do that, or we have to send one?
Well, I think
I mean, not
what
today,
Kid
but-
said, just, we can take a stroll around and say, do you want 100 or 150 on the licensing one. The other one, I think everybody's fine with.
That's good.
I mean, you know, the lower you make it, and the more things you put in there, the more work you put on these guys over here.
Sure.
So,
It also restricts businesses,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean,
and I don't like that.
I'm fine, it's just, if you want to say, okay, who wants to go 100? Who wants to go 150? Just count it up and then
Okay.
give it
So
to him
which
and
one
say.
do you want to do first?
Who wants to go?
Who wants to go 150 on the
The license one.
license ordinance?
Which one? License?
The licensing.
On the license.
Yeah.
Okay, so 150.
So we just change
We'll
them,
change that.
Okay.
they'll both sit at 150 now. And we'll run them both across the street.
That work for y'all?
Works for us.
Okay. All right. Moving on to presentation of new applications.
They asked for public input, is there any public?
That will be at your next meeting.
Okay, all right, it's not, so we're not, you're running in between to help us set the final meeting. No,
This is still.
I got you.
This is still a workshop item.
Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you.
Presentation of new applications. For this first item, I'm going to hand it over to Vice Chair Stalvey and recuse myself from that agenda item.
Okay. Presentation of new application text, 609 Seaside Farms PUD amendment. I think Kelly has that. Have a staff report.
This is a request by Shoji Pine Island LLC, Robert S. Guyton, agent, to amend section 11, special requirements, and section 13, public improvements, and to include appendix 1 into the finalized Seaside Farms PUD ordinance. Here is a location map of the PUD, as well as an aerial view, a zoning map with Seaside Farms PUD as the pink in the middle, a master site plan. As regards to section 11, special requirements, the developer will install a 5-foot sidewalk along the boundary of the subject property, and this is shown in appendix J, as well as the construction and installment at the expense of the developer of a public transportation shelter for those using public transportation within the existing right-of-way on the north side of Pine Island Road, and that is shown on appendix K. As far as section 13, installing storm drainage improvements, as well as, again, the 5-foot sidewalk in width on the boundary of the subject property. The installation of improvements within the right-of-way of Grisham Parkway. And lastly, the developer will widen Pine Island Road in conjunction with the installation of the improvements set forth in section 13.3 above to the boundary of the subject property along Pine Island Road. Appendix I shows the parking requirement for the PUD. 1-bedroom unit will be 1 space of parking. 2-bedroom units, 1.5 spaces. 3-bedroom units, 2 spaces, with the accumulation of 607 required number of spaces and 681 of total spaces provided. On the left, you'll see appendix J, the roadway of improvement exhibit, as well as on the right hand, appendix K, showing that example of a public transportation shelter that will be included. Happy to answer any questions. The applicant is also in the room with us.
So this has already been approved, we're just talking about the
Yes, this is
red
just an
line items.
amendment to section 11, 13, and the parking requirement appendix I.
On the roadway widening, is that, if you go back to that map maybe, but
The map.
is that just, is that going to like 4-lane and then narrowing back once you get to the end of the property?
That's a
Or
great
what is
question for
that?
the applicant.
Okay. I just-
Is the 5-foot sidewalk, is that the standard, remind me?
It used to be 10, but because of South Carolina Department of Transportation, they've had to change it to 5.
So there's a utility easement on the side of the road and a big ditch there
Right.
that just, they can't get the it's not wide enough to do what they were looking to do originally in the PUD. So that's why they've come back in with the amendment to do what they can with that space.
Couldn't get the approval for the 10 foot, so we're having to settle on the 5.
So, there's a lot of apartments and buildings. I didn't see, and help me, is there where's the entrance and exit to this? I looked at the original one.
I know. And there's also one here on Grissom.
Oh, okay.
Was there one or two commercial parcels?
Right now, it's undeveloped.
I know, but what are you proposing, one or two commercial parcels?
That's a great question for the
I think
applicant.
it's just one.
And
Is that one on Grissom's the only one?
the whole thing is commercial. Once you've got that much multifamily, it's all commercial. But that true commercial is the front building for a proposed hotel.
Okay. So this parking is a standard just for the, is it all 7 buildings or just the 6? And then the retail establishment, I guess, would be a better way, area, is that, what's that parking?
This chart is showing for units, so my assumption is that it is for homes.
Right. Okay, so we might be able to ask the applicant about the
Yes, sir.
additional 74, which is probably which Trent covers that. Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay. Applicant representative here.
Sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think everybody was on this board with the exception of maybe Lawrence. I'm not sure if Joe was when this was originally approved. I think if y'all remember when it left you, that commercial parcel out front was proposed as a hotel. When it got to council, that went away. It is no longer possible to be a hotel because of the restriction on the short-term rentals there. So it's purely a retail opportunity in its size, so it could accommodate its own parking on site. It had nothing to do with the apartments themselves. I think staff covered it well. The intent was to widen Pine Island Road with that 10-foot, what we called a multi-purpose path to get people from Grissom all the way down to Highway 15. With the conflicts with the utilities and SDOT, that became not possible. So the fallback position was to do the 5 feet and then in lieu of that, install the bus shelter at Grissom to provide some form of benefit to those people in that area that are using public transportation. The Appendix I was referenced in the original narrative, and I'll take the blame for that, it just never got attached to the final copy. So that's why we cleaned that up by making sure it was inserted this time.
And what was the purpose of additional 74 parking?
Just because council was concerned that anytime you got that many apartments in one place, you're gonna have guests, what are you gonna do with them? So they didn't want us to provide the minimum, so we provided an excess of parking on site for that.
So how's it going to accommodate the retail space?
It's a separate lot. It's not part of the apartment complex.
Oh.
And the road improvements are what?
The road improvements are still installing the 5-foot sidewalk. We had to improve the storm drainage there, and then as you come off Grissom onto Pine Island, we've got turn lanes in both directions and a widening there at the mouth at Grissom.
So this would be a 2-lane road, but with turn lanes on it into those locations.
At that point, we controlled the property, so we could
Right.
use our own property to widen the road. We just didn't go further down and condemn anything.
It looks like the road right away actually on the other side extends into those units that are there. Into the back of the units.
It does.
Not just the property.
Not my project, thank goodness.
That's your problem, huh?
This is a discussion. Any other questions? If you want things for him to look at, he'll know he would want to know before we get back together next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything for the public regarding this text amendment? If not, we can bring this in, Chairman, and we'll look at the next slide.
All right, moving on to text 2610, 21st Avenue PUD amendment. This is Caitlin.
This is a text of 21st Avenue North PUD, request by Indian Breakers Inc., Seaside Breakers Development, and NB National Joint Venture to amend 21st Avenue Oceanfront PUD, Division 1A Breakers Resort. And then the applicants actually have a presentation that they will go ahead and go through, and then we'll get back into.
Chairman and Commission, thank you for spending time with us today. We're excited to speak briefly about what will be the final amendment to the 21st Avenue PUD. With me here today is my partner with LS3P, Lizzie Daniel, Matthew Britton with Britton Resort and Hotels, and Jeff King. Lizzie and myself will address any of the regulatory any of the non-regulatory exhibits that are part of the presentation today in terms of any questions you might have. Jeff King, the ordinance aspect of it. And I'd like to kind of guide you through and tell you the story, if that's okay, for a couple of minutes. I'll promise I'll be brief. So the first thing I want to mention is that the 21st Avenue PUD, both Lizzie and I were involved in the original creation of that PUD nearly 30 years ago. So we're very excited to bring this, what we feel is the last phase of this PUD, to a conclusion for your consideration. So generally speaking, the area that you see in that aerial represents the entirety of all of the 21st Avenue PUD, and as some of you may know, it's been modified or amended many times over the last nearly 30 years. The area that we're going to talk about today is what you see in those two kind of cubes in red there. And I want to kind of lay the groundwork that what we're going to talk about today is a hotel on the ocean front, which would be the companion hotel to the dual-branded Marriott, which is of course part of the original PUD. And that hotel, we are proposing that it is less tall than it could be according to the PUD, and less tall than the Marriott Tower. And you'll see that in the presentation. On the second and third row, what we want to present to you today is how we're going to improve what are really legacy parking lots, legacy surface parking lots that have been in that area for quite a long time, and enhance the pedestrian experience, enhance the traffic flow, the check-in, check-out procedures for the hotel, as well as improve the pedestrian experience and the view to the ocean front. So we'll go through the next couple of slides kind of quickly. This is just a zoomed-in area so you can kind of see these, what I call legacy parking lots. What I mean by that is it's sort of the old-fashioned way to go about establishing surface parking. And there's a lot of cars that take up a relatively small amount of area. Doesn't have the full landscaping that we like to provide now as well. And that it's particularly the third row, asphalt and parking really from the sidewalk all the way to the property line. So you'll see in the examples to follow how we're proposing to improve that. And then this just kind of zooms you in a little bit closer again to kind of get oriented. So the first thing I want to talk about is the operator here, Britton Hotels and Resorts. I imagine y'all are familiar with them. They operate a lot of properties in the city of Myrtle Beach, and they have a lot of property here in this PUD. And they really worked hard with the operations folks to think about what is the best approach for the guest arrival experience. When you pull in, how do you drop off? Where do you go when you leave the drop off? How do you circulate around the site? And they recommended to us, and we certainly agree, that a really good goal here for the public benefit would be one of them, to eliminate curb cuts wherever we could. There's a lot of curb cuts as part of that sort of legacy strategy, the surface parking down there. So you'll see here on this exhibit two things. One is that the parcels that are colored in red there, those are the parcels that are part of this phase of the PUD. The other thing you'll notice there are some red arrows. Those are the curb cuts that we're proposing to eliminate by improving the parking situation out there. If we go to the next slide, this sort of illustrates the process that we're talking about, where if you check in, you can ride out onto North Ocean Boulevard and then cross over to Withers. We're getting that traffic off of North Ocean Boulevard, which is a really critical factor here. In addition to that, then you have a series of surface parking lots where it's really easy to see, is there space there, is there not a space there, very binary decision making. You left in to the parking lot on the second row, you right in or cut across for the third row. If there's not parking there, then you cross over 21st. And there's multiple parking opportunities throughout that entire PUD. This graphic also indicates that by doing this and by consolidating these curb cuts, we can provide more metered parking spaces. Now again, you'll see in the public improvement, that's not for us to say 100%, like this is what the answer is going to be. Of course, council has to act on what they feel like are the most beneficial aspects of the improvements. But in that area, in that location, we felt like it would be a good idea to propose additional metered parking spaces. We'll go to the next slide. So these are some photographs. What we try to do with these sorts of things is to level set everybody, because we're going to talk about the improvements that we're making, and they have a certain characteristic, a certain look, a certain appearance to them. And that's a really important aspect of what we're trying to create here. And when I say to improve the pedestrian experience, I really mean that. You can see that from these images and these photographs, that there are a lot of paved areas. There are narrow sidewalks on that north side of 21st Avenue currently. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see here that as we talk through how we are suggesting to manage the alleyway shifts that are a part of this PUD, that there's opportunity to greatly widen and enhance the pedestrian experience down 21st Avenue on the north side. And so that we are proposing on this graphic here, just simply to give you an example. Again, this has to go through a process with the city and how that's actually designed, but we're illustrating what it might look like. Go to the next slide. So if we are for driving down 21st Avenue in this particular case, what you see looking towards the ocean is depicted in this photograph. If we go to the next one, as we make the improvements by demolishing the older hotel, excuse me, on the second row, and improving the surface parking and establishing that pedestrian corridor, we put the new tower in that is lower than the Marriott. We really widen that perspective out to the ocean. And some of you probably have been a part of discussions of oceanfront PUDs in the past, but that was one of the original goals of the City Council and of Planning Commission nearly 30 years ago, is to be able to move these alleys around, get a little bit of a larger tract to build a new building on, and then shift those alleys to the street ends so that everybody gets the benefit of that view corridor. So you'll see that there. And then we've got a couple of more slides here. So this is a view a little further back and towards the north side. So you're looking straight down here. So the Breakers Tower that you see there straight in front is one of the buildings that will be demolished for the new hotel. And then if we go forward, we're also showing sort of a nighttime view because the day-night experience is very important here downtown. And this depicts the kinds of improvements that can be made in that area to really enhance that. So Matthew Britton is here with me today, but I felt like if it's okay with you, do you have any questions just about the graphics or the public improvements? Otherwise, Matthew would like to present a conversation regarding parking. Let me know if we've covered too much ground all at once, or if you're ready to talk about parking.
That's your call as the chair.
We'd appreciate the opportunity to talk about parking, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll hear from you and then
That sounds great.
let staff go through there.
Good morning, or good afternoon, yeah, time flies. We are asking and would like to present a reduced parking from the original PUD requirements. And the reason we're asking for that is we have kept up with parking here, and we do charge our guests for parking. So we have a good history of the number of people we're parking and when we have pushed past those limits. And the request is kind of simple. We're asking for a single hotel room to go from one parking place to .9. And we have several, we have a condominium, we have the Marriott, we have the new Hilton, and we have the Sailfish building that all park in all of these areas. They share this parking. And by doing that, we reduce the parking need of any one of those individual buildings. We would also argue that the standards are a little high. We can present to you a study where, I forget the exact number, but something around 9 to 13 nights in the entire year do we ever run out of parking. And only then do we run out really late at night, and we can park those on the street for the one night. And
Yes, I think to clarify that, and there's some bullets on the screen there, but the .9 cars for the hotel room or one bedroom would translate to 207 required cars rather than 230, right, with this being considered a standalone. In the last 3.5 years, right, so 3.5 years, only 10 nights in that 3.5 year period has the parking demand ever gone to 208 or above. So that is a .80 time, right? And the reality is that parking associated with hotels in a district like this that have a lot of parking, and you can kind of look around at some of those aerial images, there's a lot of parking out there. Is the criteria we feel like as it stands in the zoning ordinance right now causes some over parking, and that's evidenced by this study particularly.
When you say 208, is that the charge parking is what you're saying?
Right, if you stay at the hotel, you have to pay for the parking.
Right, so you've had nights where it was 208, is what you're saying is the largest you've had.
No, so what I'm saying is that the number of days it went over 208
Right.
was 10 in 3.5 years.
Okay. And how did you measure the 208?
That is an arbitrary number, so .9 times 230 is 207. So we wanted to know how many times, how many nights we went over that .9
And
threshold.
how did you get to your number of how many times you went over? Was it from the charges you made?
Correct,
Yes.
yeah, the hotel.
So the reason I'm asking is, so that didn't include the employee parking? It don't include the charge parking?
Right, but all of the parking for employees is accommodated also within this entirety.
Right.
Right.
So it was more than, if you had employees, you were much greater than the charge parking, is what I'm saying.
And we do want to point out too that there's an overlap, right? So the time that the guests are parked with their cars is not the time when all of the staff is at the hotel. And that's one of the distinctions we feel like regarding a hotel that's different than, let's say, a condominium or an apartment complex or these kinds of things. There's a share in a certain sense for the number of employees.
For example, on any given day, 365 days a year, people are checking out of the hotel. And many of those people check out early, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, others 11 and on. Your employees are arriving at 6, 7, or 8 o'clock. So there's no conflict there between the employees and the guests parking. Then at night, you only have a very few employees employees. So overnight, when you have maximum parking needs, you only have, 2, 3, 4 employees. And for this particular building, you might have no employees or one employee. And the only time you can even measure needing parking, because guests staying in the hotel are going to attractions, they're going out to eat. Sure, some are on the beach and staying, but as a whole, they're never all, during the day, they're never all parked at the hotel. There are always a certain amount of them doing something.
So you're basically saying with the employees and the guests that are staying there, only 10 nights out of the year did you ever have a problem?
10 nights in 3.5 years.
Oh, 3.5 years.
I kind of think, there's certain businesses, and I know you want to have enough parking for whatever your business activity is. But I look at like a mall, and probably 2 or 3 days a year is that parking lot ever filled. The rest of the time, it's pavement that's paved over, so there are no impervious areas. The hotel kind of falls, maybe not quite in the same range, but very similar in that range, in that perhaps we overstate the need for parking, just so we don't ever run short. But yet, I only have a day or two a year that we actually do use all that parking. So I guess my question might be, obviously in a mall, you can sit there and say, okay, we're gonna leave out some land over here that's still unpaved. And if you ever find that it becomes a problem, it could be converted in, or it could be just used as grass parking or whatever. But in your case, is there, have y'all looked at how much around the area other parking there is, so that you don't have a guest that comes up? I mean, I agree, I'd like to have minimal parking, but necessary parking, needed parking for the business. So is there, in the general area, 3 nights?
Yeah, there are 30 or so city parking places that are obviously not needed when that becomes an issue. On those 10 nights, that didn't become an issue until 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night. And there's plenty of places to park in those during that time.
Is the new facility going to have a conference center?
No, sir.
Strictly just the hotel?
Just the hotel.
We're actually closing, we have some meeting rooms in that existing, what is it, a 10-story building. We have a meeting room on top of that will go away. Also, our business, on this particular property, we do have several independent hotels, but the Marriott and the Hilton will be branded properties. And a large base of our business comes from the airport and people that are Ubering in and don't have a car to begin with. So that's another factor for this independence, less so branded properties. People rely more on that kind of business.
Yeah, the trajectory of the parking needs is decreasing. Right? We don't know. We don't have crystal balls to know for sure. But the industry believes that the requirement for parking associated with hotels is a decreasing element, certainly not an increasing element. So over time, and as the airport improves and the branded hotels, really gain more of a prominence, there's going to be even more people that are choosing to not drive. However, we do understand, of course, that Myrtle Beach is a drive-to destination, so we are not proposing a drastic reduction that would account for, let's say, 10 years from now or 15 years from now.
Explain your agreement you have with the other parking garages that's not part of this property. What is that, to where it assures you have the long-term viability of the parking?
So in this particular case, we showed the overall view, and there are really 1, 2, 3, 4 entities involved there. So there's, thank you. There is the existing Marriott. To its south is the Paradise Breakers Paradise Tower, which is a condominium. Then to the north will be the new Hilton. And then to the north of that is the Sailfish. And all of those have rights to park in the garage that's across the street. And then the third row garage. So we have 2 garages already. And none of those properties own those. They have an easement to park there. So they share that parking. And I think there's also to the south of there is the Hilton Vacation Club building, and they have a parking garage for which the Sailfish also has a right to park in.
So the park requirements for all of those other entities and your ability to have the number of units, 21 spaces in there, it meets their required parking standard and allows you to have 21 spaces.
And Jeff is here too, if there's any highly specific or technical questions regarding that Lloyd's garage, the parking.
Oh, yeah, just to correct maybe one thing there, that in the Ocean 22 garage, the third row garage, both the River City and the Sailfish have, and they are dedicated spaces. There's a number of spaces that that are used for them to meet their requirements and are not used by any other property for that.
And the garage was built to that capacity.
Right, exactly. That was part of when that building or that garage was constructed, was to provide the spaces. I think Sailfish has 21 and River City Cafe has 25, and they are the only entities that use those towards their zoning requirement.
So, I don't know if you know this or not, Charles, River City Cafe is a standard 25 for them for the size of it.
Standard 25.
River City Cafe.
I don't have the square footage on it. It's an older building.
River City does have their own surface parking, I believe, adjacent to their building as well.
They
There's a
met
paved
their,
area
I
right
know they met
beside
their
that.
requirements, and when we added those 25, it's because we were taking a lot that had 25 or something like that.
So the 25 they're going to contribute to is not required for the number of parking they need to run their establishment.
Can you repeat that?
What I'm saying is, say River City has 50 parking spaces. The size of the building says they need 25, and they're going to, because they are in excess of that, that's the 25 you're talking about, you want to contribute towards that, or is part of this the requirement for River City?
I think what Jeff.
Well, I don't think we're not really contributing to anything to say that that's how, those parking spaces over there, are how the zoning requirements for those entities are met, or currently.
I can answer that question for you. We would not have required them to have those other 25 spaces if they were not required.
Correct.
And they're not required?
No, sir, they are required, that's why they're provided.
Okay. All right, okay.
If they were not
I
required.
thought they were counting in their number.
If they were not required, they would not be.
We're not trying to, we get to
Okay,
this point
so-
9 request, we're just pointing out where the other parking is. There's
Okay,
parking
so these
outside.
25 aren't included in your unit totals for you?
No.
Okay, that was
No,
my.
they're not overlapping in that.
Okay, that's
No.
what I wanted to
Okay,
make
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If this happens to go forward, what kind of timeline are we talking about? 2 years, 3 years?
No, we would like to demolish these buildings starting in December, January, February. We'd like to start construction in April after the demolition.
Well, since we're kind of going out of turn here, I'm going to hit up on what Lawrence kind of hit up on in regard to the mall. If you use the same process that they're using to figure out their parking for this hotel, that you used at the mall, over half the parking at the mall would be gone.
Right.
Okay? And it's kind of like we talked earlier about the one bad apple. Sometimes we're writing code. We're not writing code for 365 days. Sometimes it is just for 3 days out of the year. I've never seen where you're not required one parking space per room on any PUD or any ordinance that I've ever been involved with. That's a little bit of a fear factor to me in there. But I think the mall example was a prime, perfect perfect example. There's only 6 days out of the year that you will probably see that parking lot full, and the other 350, you'll probably see it not even half full. Okay, we don't necessarily put things in place for your best days. We put things in place for your worst days. Because the worst days, whenever we get phone calls about there's not enough parking at a location or something along those lines. Again, it's their business model, but it's our code that we have to enforce.
And Ken, with that, and the zoning rewriting's coming up, et cetera, has there been any discussions? They're claiming, saying that it's too much, but in the code, do we see any thoughts about it has been too much?
I am not seeing anything that we've seen in the code so far that we've gone below 1 on a parking requirement.
And I want to add to that, Ken, I hear what they're saying, where during the day, people are traveling and stuff, but one of the goals of the city is to improve walkability and have people walking, so it may become, maybe not today, but sometime in the future, where people are parking their cars and they're walking wherever, whatever attraction comes up nearby.
And
And leaving their car there, they're parking their car for
That
a
would be,
week or
that
whatever.
would be the desire of the city as a whole for it to be that way. But I'll hit on something else that Lawrence hit on too. We do have a section in our ordinance that if you can say, I don't need as much parking as you are requiring, but you show the land where that parking could be, we allow that land to be set to the side and not paved, but nothing else can go on there. That land is pretty much regulated and protected for that purpose if that need arrives. To have to depend on parking for another business to meet that need, I'm not gonna say it probably can't work, but it's nothing that can be enforced from a code perspective.
All right, we want to hear staff's presentation, then we'll come back to the applicant.
Thank you.
Get you that, there we go.
Technical difficulties.
All right, there we go.
All right, here is our overview of the proposed Phase 2 development.
There we go. Good.
All right, highlighted in blue is the location of all of the Phase 2 boundary focus area. In the gray is the full PUD. Proposed changes for the PUD is going to consist of 2 phases. 3 alleys are to be closed. Phase 2 improvements include the oceanfront park area created to be relocated of all the alleyways, improvements to 21st Avenue North streetscape. Section 7.1, the required spaces to be lowered from 1 space per 1-bedroom unit to 0.9 spaces. Removal of Phase 1A, the interim phase, and Phase 3 references. Adding language referencing the existing River City Cafe. Adding text referencing the garage parking in Division 2 of the PUD. Adding parking reference language to Sailfish for 21 spaces and River City Cafe's 25 spaces within the parking garage of Division 2 at Crystal Blue. And removal of exhibits 17, 12, 13, and 14 for Phase 1 improvements. Phase 2 is to complete no later than November of 2032. And then the construction staging. Phase 2 will have the use of the alley that will be relocated south side for their construction purposes. And then here we have our sources for the alley swaps. Here's a map showing the existing alleys as they are now in the blue, pink, and purple. And here they are relocated.
Get back to that. Does everybody understand the movement of those alleys? Okay.
Here's a proposed hotel in pink. public use, cities right away, and then the blue is for private use. This goes over their parking. And here we can see their parking breakdown. Let's go to the next one. Our internet must be slow.
It's Monday and Tuesday.
The construction outside. And then the last slide is just the parking radius of 300 feet, showing where all their parking would be. And that's all for staff's presentation. Do you have any questions?
So on the parking, it said 612 units. If we were to go down to the .9, we're changing it for 4 hotels instead of just the one?
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me right there, yes, sir.
So we're lessening the parking on multiple, not just the new one?
I would say so.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions for staff? Good. All right. Any other questions for the applicant? No. Anything else from the applicant? Good.
We're good, thank you.
All right. Moving on. Good? All right. Pre-fin 2607 tennis track, Taisha. And then we're gonna run STN together. And then also STN 2608 tennis track, which is also Taisha.
There's a request by MB Tennis LLC as Cameron Parker as the agent to subdivide approximately 8.54 acres zoned Grand Dunes PUD into 31 lots ranging from 11,955 square feet to 6,238 square feet with 4 new drives. Here highlighted in blue is the parcel in consideration. Here we have the aerial view. Here we have its location in the Grand Dunes PUD. And then here we have the plat showing the 31 lots with the largest lot being 11,955 square feet and the smallest lot being 6,238 square feet. And then here we have the request by MB Tennis LLC to name 4 new drives near Marina Parkway, serving 31 single-family homes: Monte Castillo, Valderrama, Capopino, and Villa Tana. Here we have the plat showing the location of the streets. And then here we have the street names to be approved. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer. And then the applicant is also in the audience.
Taisha, do we have a tree survey for this?
And I have requested a tree survey from the applicant, and they will be sending it to us. Hopefully we'll have it by the next meeting.
They will have it by next week.
Say that again.
They will have it by next week.
Okay.
So is this is still within the PUD, it's just a change of use within this existing PUD? Or,
Yes, sir. It's a change of use on that property.
and are there any other subdivisions within this PUD that are of this size of lot? This small of a lot?
Yes, sir.
They are all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you're talking about a lot of acreage, so all the Del Webb homes fall within that same square footage. I think there's probably some even less than that.
And they're not requesting any exception to the size of lots of the PUD. It's already approved, correct?
Correct.
The Del well is down at, what is
Small.
60?
Smallest they're requesting 6,200.
Sorry, pardon me?
6,200 is the smallest they're requesting. There are lots throughout this PUD that are smaller than that.
With 5-foot sides, setbacks.
Setbacks are the same.
They already said setback requirements in the regulations, but
So they're stating here 5 foot, but you're saying that others have,
yeah, the architectural review board of the Grand Duke HUD said your
they
setback.
said the setback. Could they set less than that?
Yes, sir.
Review board.
But the
Yes, sir.
Fire code has some say-so on that, don't it?
Well, you start getting
Fire
fire rating
separation.
and other stuff, yes.
So I guess the same standards apply on all properties across the PUD. The same standards apply. The same standards that would be applied to this piece of property are the same standards that were applied to any new residential subdivision that's been built in the Grand Duke's PUD.
So the original PUD allow for so this is actually an amendment to the PUD as far as
No,
what's
sir.
allowed? So the PUD allows them to utilize this property for this without making an amendment to the PUD?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
All right, any questions for the applicant, or more questions for staff?
I got
Sir.
one applicant, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for considering this application. Cameron Parker with Development Resource Group. This is the finalization of the tennis tract for development. Over the years, I've seen this presented as condos, townhomes, single family, a variety of uses, all of which are permitted in the PUD. Before you today is 31 single-family homes, and I'll walk you around the plan that's in front of you. It'll be accessed off via Marbella Court behind the private gate. The actual subdivision conforms to Appendix D of the fire truck apparatus standards, so you see a bunch of these alley ends. There would potentially, once I coordinate with fire marshal, be an emergency access between lots 7 and 8. Stormwater management will be provided by the new Open Space 1, which is a wet detention pond that will connect to the existing pond system. Utilities otherwise will be provided by the gravity sewer and water system that is already adjacent to the project. As you mentioned, I'll address a couple of the things that you brought up. We have had our arborist out to identify all of the trees that are protected or otherwise on the project. There are 19. We'll conduct the remainder of the tree survey to close the loop on that, but we have provided a tree evaluation report that identifies the species, diameter, and location of those with their health and et cetera. We've determined that there are no landmark trees, but there are a couple of protected trees that we're going to try to save. I guess moving on also around the project to the southwest corner, we're going to leave a large open space, roughly a half acre there to buffer against Grand Dunes Boulevard and Marina Parkway, and then continue, there will be most likely some type of a fence behind lots 1 through 7 to separate those from the right-of-way to continue that, gated portion of the community. I guess to finalize the presentation, we've got, not shown on this exhibit, but as part of the site plans, we've got 6 street side parking spaces, which would kind of go on the unloaded side of those alley ends. You've seen us do that in other subdivisions in the Grand Dunes. And then, I guess to address an overarching concern, I know that there's a lot of minds that here see this as obviously the tennis courts. The open space that is required in the PUD is 10% of the respective tract. This is in the marina tract, which is 611 acres, of which have already been dedicated, let's see, 88 acres, 14% has been deed restricted and dedicated as common area in the marina tract itself. So the PUD already complies, or this tract already complies with the PUD. And then overall, 20% of the PUD has to remain as open space, which would be accommodated by the existing golf courses, stormwater retention ponds, etc. So thank you for that. Considering this application, do you have any questions that I can answer?
This is probably just more of a curiosity question.
Sure.
Do they intend on one entity building the homes or just selling lots out? Not that that has anything to do with.
I do believe this is going to be offered to more custom builder guild, but I can't say for sure.
And you said you are putting a landscape or fence around it, or just?
Yeah, before the next presentation, we'll bring before you like an open space landscaping and buffering plan that kind of represents what the intent is, and I'll bring that for you to consider before the next meeting.
I'm assuming similar to what's already been done and.
Very likely, no walls. This is internal to the PUD, but this will be nicely landscaped, buffered and burned with fencing, etc.
Is this the piece of property that you were talking about that's going to be left undisturbed?
Landscaped and undisturbed, yes.
Will the houses along the waterway have access to the waterway, or no? They will.
Technically, they have frontage, but they are not going to be permitted to have docks.
Okay.
So when we apply for the coastal zone consistency permit, we'll have to either provide a dock master plan or not, and the intent is not to do that.
How close is this to the walkway that's along?
To the what now?
The walkway that's along the intercoastal waterway?
On the other side of the bridge.
It's on the other side, okay, I was off, but okay, I got you. Thank you. Yeah, I see it now.
Any other questions? This is not a public hearing. I will, Planning Commission wants to hear from one member of the audience. I will allow that, but I'll leave that up to y'all.
It's fine.
Okay. If one person wants to come and speak from the audience, please state your name.
Chairman and Commission members of Council, my name is Norman Hensley. I am the Vice President of the Golf Village Property Owners Association Board of Directors. We're here to object to this plan, and I'd like to give you some of our reasoning behind that from our community. The legacy communities in the Grand Dunes PUD, I'm speaking of Golf Village, Castel de Mar, Calais, Cipriana, Seville, Sienna Park, and even some of the newer ones, Members Club Village, the Cape, Golf Track 20. None of these communities in the plan have any type of recreational facilities. In the PUD, there are the golf courses, there's the beach club, separate facility, and there are these tennis courts. They provide the recreation facilities for these communities. Now, some of the newer communities do have a swimming pool, maybe even a tennis court or a pickleball court, but they're restricted to those communities. We currently have in the PUD apartments, condos, townhouses, garden homes, and private residences, all that are being constructed, which provide plenty of opportunity for new residents or other residents who want to move about within the PUD. So my point would be is you're taking away approximately a third of the recreational facilities available to the residents of the Grand Dunes PUD who depend on this for our recreation. We also have some questions about how this will integrate into the Grand Dunes Master Association. how much coordination has been done with the Grand Dunes Master Association, which provides the security. For example, if this is a gated community, what is going to be the impact on the security being provided by the Grand Dunes Master Association? Has this been, even pushed through the Master Association? The architecture, we were talking about builders. Who are the builders going to be? What are the architectural design guidelines going to be for this community? Something that I think the Master Association has, with all the other communities in Grand Dunes, has established. So I'm not sure if the cart is before the horse here or what, but I think there are a number of considerations that haven't been looked at yet. So I would just ask the members of the committee here to take all this into consideration. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Good. Bring it back to commissioners. Anything? Good. All right. Moving on. Communications from staff.
Alright, so roll through this. Before I start, I got a notification. If y'all folks are looking to leave after that presentation, if you want to save the code update, that's great. But if you want to leave, I'd ask you to leave now. Just they're doing construction outside, so we can't have you leaving through the front door. So I have to shuttle you outside through the side entrance. So if you do want to leave, I'd recommend now rather than later.
I'm ready.
Come on, Mr. K, I'll get you out.
How are you doing?
Zoning rewrite not
No, I
interesting enough,
appreciate it.
guys?
I appreciate it. That was a good.
I wonder what all that banging was.
Thought it was an earthquake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We only get hurricanes, we don't get earthquakes.
Yeah, shaking it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alright. So, from some comments I've received from y'all, I want to give a quick update over the zoning rewrite for the city of Myrtle Beach. We've been hard at work with Kimley Horn on this now for well over 10, 12 months at this point. So, just want to give a quick update to this, just level set everything. Kelly Klepper, the gentleman who's come and given a few presentations before y'all at this point, is on his third round of detached retina surgery. So that has kind of thrown this into a bit of a flux as the principal in charge is recovering from another eye surgery. So we wish him well, but that has kind of slowed this process down just a little bit because he can't read at this point. So as far as this goes, quick agenda, code overview. We'll go through the zoning district and map, you see uses and standards, parking, loading, standards of measurement, and lighting and glare, as well as discussion and next steps. First, broken the code down to 3 sections: administration, procedure, and definitions, then zoning districts, use standards and overlays, and finally development and design standards. So a reorganization to more clearly identify the sections in which you can find the information you need as part of the zoning code. As far as zoning districts, this is one section that we're finalizing right now. So refined zoning district framework, we've condensed the zoning districts down, we've cleared up district intent and put back in descriptions of what the district is supposed to be. We've improved the structure for administration and interpretation, as well as establishing foundations for updating code into the future. So as it currently looks, this is the existing zoning map. Very, very disparate, hard to see at points. If you just look behind yourselves or in front of yourselves, you can see it clearly. This one, it's hard to tell from this, they don't have the letter designations here, but hopefully you do notice there's a lot less small pockets of territory in the new zoning map. So that is what they're striving for, is much more clear and concise zoning over the entirety of the map. So again, breaking down, I think you've all seen this before. We're going to be removing the RDZ, we're removing the institutional, and we're removing the interim redevelopment as zoning districts. We're also combining some of the residential, so like R5, R7, and R8 is all going to single-family residential high. That will help lessen the amount of zoning designations across the entirety of the map. Questions? Uses and standards. Uses and standards to better align with the zoning districts that we're moving forward with. Standards to be more clearly tied to uses, improved organization of regulations, and support more consistent applications. Again, we have many different zoning uses that are in our chart that are either no longer confectionaries are not necessary, or letter writing stations not really in operation at this point, so probably doesn't need to be in our chart. Moving forward, this helps clarify what districts you can do things in, as well as what standard district or what standard section within the code this will be found in. So if you want to know all about the proposed use of multifamily dwellings, you will know directly it's an 801B7. You can go right there quickly, directly to find the rules and regulations pertaining to multifamily dwellings. Questions?
I like that.
Like that? Cool. Same thing with proposed and accessory use tables. Right now, we have a singular chart that is both proposed or permitted uses, conditional uses, and accessory uses and special exceptions all in one chart, breaking these out to make them more clear moving forward under what an accessory use is, and again, what code section it can be located in.
I think one of the bigger things that y'all see, like you've got the gray heading, and then you've got the similar uses in there. That's a big change for us too.
Yeah, so you can see here's a good example. Instead of grouping just purely alphabetically, we've gone residential, recreation, agriculture. We're condensing those things that are similar to one another into sections that are easier to chase down, so that way you can go find the thing you need. There's also talk about adding a note section here to kind of broaden scope. When you have something like indoor recreation, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. So to clarify and help Charlie in his interpretations moving forward, a note section which more clearly identifies things that may be part of indoor recreation. So less is left up to interpretation on a day-to-day basis. Supplemental use standards. This is currently section 13. This was our hodgepodge section of anything and everything that we didn't know where the home for it should be. Everything from like axe throwing to mobile food truck regulations found, and cell phone towers found their way in section 13. So a specific supplemental use standards to again identify those things. Things we've looked at: amusement rides, axe throwing, drive-throughs, home businesses, HPRs, mobile food units, and outdoor dining. Parking and loading is one we just wrapped up. We've clarified dimensional standards for the spaces, aisles, and circulations. One thing I'm really happy with, we've increased the minimum size for a parking stall going from 9 feet by 19 feet to 10 by 20 feet. Cars are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so to check that a little bit, make each parking space bigger. Reduced minimum parking requirements for select uses, expanded flexibility for shared and off-site parking, added standards for drive-through stacking, introduced district-specific exceptions, and improved loading requirements and overall organization. Again, we've gone really hard into updating our graphics, so with the stacking requirements, a very clear depiction of the stacking requirement starts at the order board point, and these are the regulations that follows. Anybody should be able to pick up this document and get a feel for what they're up against. Not that they might have all the answers, but definitely a feel for what they're up against, what we're going for here. So, and again, clarity on the right-hand side, just being very clear and intentional on if you have a pharmacy, you need 6 cars stacking within the lane from the order point. Standards of measurement, clarity, and graphics on this one, providing guidance on everything from density and intensity, building frontage, building height, setbacks, lot coverage, and ocean yards. Again, we have hand-drawn graphics in our current code book. This is just a modernization to make more clear and specific how you measure anything. Lighting and glare, we've improved clarity of glare and spillover standards. That's a persistent issue here. We've reduced complexity of permitting and approval requirements, updated formatting with clear tables and graphics, and retained an expanded coastal protection lighting area. So some key takeaways: code update tends to improve clarity and organization for anybody reading the document. The zoning districts and uses have been simplified and refined for clarity again. Development standards are enhanced with the use of graphics and tables, and overall goal is a more user-friendly and consistent code for us. So we're currently through, I believe it was 7 or 8 section of this code. We still have about 5 outstanding that they are working on. Those should be coming to us shortly here, and starting with the next planning commission meetings, hope to be running these to y'all for actual review of the text moving forward. So that is what I have for y'all. Happy to answer any questions.
Go back to that one slide, Cameron. I don't, where we've got the line out there about the zoning districts and uses have been simplified and refined. I don't want that to be misleading to y'all, okay? they've been simplified and refined for us as far as an enforcement mechanism goes. The understanding would be a whole lot clearer, but we're not simplifying to lose anything or simplifying to give anything away or refining it to give anything away. We're simplifying and refining it to make it an easier explanation for us to give to people sometimes. To give it an easier thing for us to have a use that's not listed in our table. We've got a more general use, but that general use has actual better examples. It decreases our liability as far as any decisions that we make in regard to zoning. So I don't want that to be simplified and refined, meaning that we've lessened anything whatsoever. We've simplified it and refined it from an understanding standpoint.
That's all I had on that one.
Where's my slides?
Took it out.
You delete it? Okay, why did you take it out?
Thank you. I left it in the end. So, I have accepted a planning director position up in New Hampshire, so, tomorrow is my last day with the city of Myrtle Beach. Thank you all for your time and care in this. It's been a lot of fun. Really proud of some of the things we've done here, but, I'll have to go home.
What's your anticipated moving date?
Monday.
Oh, wow.
You don't mess around.
Yes, we will fill the position. We will have a hard time replacing that young man right there. Brought a lot to the table. Feel like we gave him a strong foundation to go out there, and if he's not learned anything else here, he's learned how to make a difference. And I know that you'll take that with him wherever he goes. Huge loss, but that's a part of this world. That's a part of the way this thing goes. We don't bring you here to necessarily keep you forever, but we do bring you here to make you better than you were when you came here. And I'm 100% sure that's what we've done with Mr. Armstrong. The world's his oyster. He just chooses to eat it somewhere else now. But again, he will be missed, not only as a worker, but as a friend. Hate to see him go, but kind of like I told him, I could never be as much sad as I am happy for you. I'll never be, because I am extremely happy for the opportunity that he has going forward. And I'm pleased with the difference that he's made and been the influence on my staff around here. And some of the things that we've learned from him will still continue forward.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
You've been great to work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any communication from commissioners? I'd love to hear a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Paul. All those in favor?